Welcome back to the Kitchen Table Modelers Workshop. It's Ian here, and we are starting the next big build. And as you can see from the instructions in front of you, it's going to be HobbyBoss's 1/48 scale B24-J Liberator. Now, I've been holding off from starting this build for a few weeks because I've been waiting for some upgrades for the kit. They have arrived, and I thought before I got going with it we'd have a quick look at them. So, as if by magic, here we go. What we've got is the Eduard Brassin engine set to replace those woefully inadequate plastic molded engines that come with the kit. And then we've also got the undercarriage and supercharge update set. They're roughly about £20 each or something like that, not just deadly. Yes, it's £40 on top of the cost of the kit, but these particular upgrades are really going to lift the kit up to the next level. The engines are quite visible, so that's going to lift the engine part up, and the undercarriage is very visible, as well as the turbochargers. So again, these are all simple upgrades that are going to make a big difference. So let's have a look and see what we've got in the box. Right, looking in, we'll do the engines first. So this is the first time I've actually used any Eduard Brassin stuff, so I'm quite intrigued. Lovely packaging. Instructions here first. So, colour picture. So we get 4 engines and we get 4 mounting plates. Colour call out: silver, neutral grey, semi-gloss black, super iron. So 4 colours, not too bad. We've got Mr. Aqueous, GSI Krios or Guns, and you've got Guns Aqueous, and then Mr. Colour. We'll be able to match those from pretty much any paints. I've got the Gallery Kaleido Colourworks metal colours, and that's what I'll be using for these engines. Fantastic colour call out here. So we've got bright silver for the engine, semi-gloss black for the rocker covers and the HT leads, neutral grey for the final drive gearbox. We're going to need some 0.3mm plastic rod for the propeller mounting point, and then we're also going to have to remove part of the kit part, so 0.7mm of this raised part here for the engine bearer to glue to. So not just too much alterations. And now for the nice part. So these are all 3D printed, and this again will be the first time I've actually worked with 3D printed resin, so I'm quite excited. So what have we got? Well, we've got the mounting plate here. I'm just going to leave that attached, but that's all really nicely printed. Not too much cleanup, I don't think, there. And then we've got an engine. And if you cast your mind back to the review, so these obviously come in pairs, and how woefully inadequate the engines for this kit are. Well, look what they supply you. Absolutely stunning detail. Really nice. And that detail, it's difficult to see how the reverse of the part is, but the actual front bit you're going to see is beautiful. So you've got all your push rods in, you've got all your HT leads in. Just a case of careful painting, and this is going to look absolutely stunning. So I'm really happy with that. That's a well worth upgrade in my book. That's going to solve the problem of the poor plastic parts. Right, next parts, and this is the parts we're actually needing for the interior. Tuck that away, put that to one side because we'll be doing them later. Right, so in the interior it comes with the wheels, the supercharger, and the T-face. I'm not sure what they're meaning by that, but anyway. Nice foam packaging. We've got one bag with wheels, one bag with 3D printed superchargers, and then we have got a beautiful full color printed instrument panel. We've got photo etch for the wheel hubs and a full set of harnesses, which is just what we're needing. We've also got a full set of die cut masks for the canopy glass, which is exactly what I was needing. And then we'll have a look at the instructions. So all in all, some fantastic parts there. So if we look at the instrument panel first, there we go. Don't have to paint any of it. It's all in very, very good detail. It'll just be a case of altering the plastic part to make that fit, and then obviously to fit the other plastic parts around with it. It does tell you areas that may need to be cut out and removed, and it tells you where all the fixing points for the seat harnesses are, and looks like a little bit of removal work in that bulkhead there. So we'll have to look at that. Does it tell us the part? Yeah, E7 we need to do some work on. So E7 and M6. So we'll look at that shortly, because we're going to get going on that shortly. So if we look at the instrument panel itself, I'll leave it in the package because I really don't want to damage it at all, but that is absolutely stunning. Realistically, are you going to see it? Probably not, because the canopy is not huge on this aircraft, but it'll look good as we take photographs as we build it. Seat harnesses, full colour. I wonder if they're the steel ones as well, but beautiful, just what we're needing. And then there's the discs for the main wheel undercarriages. Wheels, not going to bother showing you the canopy masks. They're just typical Eduard quality, which means they're going to be perfect. So the wheels, main undercarriage wheels here, we've also got masks for painting those, which is again fantastic. There are options A and B. So A is the ones that's got the full cover on it, and B is the ones that, well, they look exactly the same, so I'm not just too sure what the difference is here for A and B. It's maybe different inserts for the wheels. Again, we'll figure that one out as we do the build. Weight on wheels, which is perfect, is exactly what we want, because these were big heavy beasts and they did show weight on wheels on the tarmac. So here we've got the front undercarriage, there's the wheel, and then we've also got the mudguard, beautifully 3D printed, absolutely stunning parts. Again, I'll leave that one in the packaging because I don't want to damage it. Right, these are more traditionally cast resin wheels on the block, so we'll need to saw the block off, but the detail is fantastic, even down to the Goodyear markings on the tyres. And there's the brake system, you've got the brake lines in there and everything, absolutely stunningly casted. Oh, just fills you with joy. I really do like resin parts. And here's the front undercarriage wheels. It is a double. I'm assuming it's a double. Let's have a look. Does it tell us? Ah, okay. So this is AB is the front undercarriage wheel. So there is difference. What, I don't know. Size maybe. Not quite sure what the differences are here. They look nearly the same to me. I think one might be marginally larger than the other, but it's hard to tell. But we'll figure it out as the build goes, so we'll take some more detailed photographs. But the parts themselves are absolutely beautifully cast, as you'd expect from Eduard. Last parts are the turbocharger. Again, you've got fine painting details. It's all dark iron, so any dark iron will do. A little bit of a wash, maybe a hint of a dry brush, just with a slightly brighter iron color, just to kind of highlight those springs and the flanges and bolt heads and whatnot. But absolutely beautiful, and it's a straight 1-for-1 swap for the kit part. And just looking at them through the plastic, I'm going to leave them in because I really don't want to damage them. They are absolutely stunning parts. So those are the extras that we have got for this kit, and these are the extras that I recommend. I got mine off eBay. Any reputable supplier will be able to get these for you, or you can buy them direct from Eduard. Yeah, in my opinion, these are the minimum level of extras you need for this kit. The only other thing that I may look to get might be some master barrels to replace the gun barrels. So, moving on to the build. What do we need first? Well, we need to cut the fuselage halves off, and then we need to come and get all these parts here and here organized. Is that the same side? Yeah, it is. Before we move on to the exact same for the next parts. So parts 1 to 6 is basically the interior sidewall fuselages. Part 7 we move on to the actual structure, the bomb bays and cockpit, etc. So what I'm going to do to try and keep this build moving reasonably along is I'm going to just go through and we'll get all the fuselage halves off. We'll get all these parts off and cleaned. Any areas here where we've got glazing, I'll probably just leave that until we've painted it. That'll save me having to mask. And any small parts that I think I can get away with gluing in, I might just glue on. But some of these oxygen tanks and whatnot will probably need a little bit of cleaning, so I will have to leave that till later on. But the main thing is I'm going to get all the parts off, and then we'll get all these parts except for the glazing off, and we'll see what we've got. And then we will look at actually how we're going to paint it, and I'll probably do that for both sides so we can do the painting on both sides. As you can see here, we've got interior green here, and then the center section is neutral grey, which is kind of unusual because sometimes most American bombers seem to be just a plain aluminium. But that aside, we need to think about painting those two areas as well, and obviously we need to do that with both fuselage halves at the same time. So the other thing to think of as well is when we get to these sections here, so part 7 and on, is do we need to get all these together, because these are all painted neutral grey and then some of them painted interior green. So I just wonder if we need to think, if we're going to do batch painting, does this all need to be done together? So I'm not quite sure yet. Quite a lot of neutral grey here, and quite a lot of that probably could be painted together along with the fuselage halves. So I might just we might even press on to the point of doing sub-assemblies like this. Don't know. We'll get the fuselage halves off anyway, and then we will get all these little ancillary parts and see how tricky they're going to be to put in and paint. I'm making the wild assumption that they will all be the same color as the sidewall, so it'll probably be appropriate for them to be on before we actually paint it. So back in a moment. Okay, welcome back. And interior detail. So I was intending to show constructing this, but there's so many small fiddly bits. So what I've done is parts 1, parts 2, parts 3 and 4 I've completed off camera. First thing to note, part 1 here, it's saying T13, T15. Well, actually it's R21 and R22, so there's a mistake you need to be aware of. Other than that, all the parts declared are the parts needed. Now, I haven't put any of the P parts in or the V parts in because they are the glazing parts. So they'll be going in once we've done the color coat. Right. Get the right side first, so it's this side first. So I'll just zoom out just a little bit. There we go. You can see that whole side in. So I'll get a pointer and we can have a look. So we've got a little bit of PE up front here. And then we've got all these switching boxes, and I think these are all to do with the oxygen gauges, or the oxygen system. In here, I need to do a little bit of cleanup here, for I've got a bit of glue marks. We've got hydraulic or pipe work anyway in the bomb bay, which is actually really nice to have. We've got these parts here going in, and then in the rear, ammunition can, rear gunner's position. This is not glued. The instructions require you not to glue it, so it's just a free fit, which I will paint probably separately. I'm just keeping it in there so I don't lose it. I'm assuming that's the toilet there in the end. And then we've got some sort of an actuator there, and some cylinders there, and handrails in the top. So that's parts 1 and 2, you get that done. And they all fit really well, and there wasn't that much cleanup on it. Right. The guns here for this section go together really nicely. So that's the gun there. So they work out nice. And then these double air cylinders or oxygen cylinders, they've got doubles and singles. What I did was I put them in place on the fuselage, glued these pipe works in, and then I've just stuck them loosely to here with some super glue so we can paint them. These are going to be yellow. So we've got 2 doubles and there's a single here. Also, these parts here, which this one's here, these are all, I think, individual oxygen cylinders. I've made them all up, and they've all just been stuck to a kebab stick, ready for painting because they're yellow as well. I jumped ahead a little bit, and I've got all the bombs done, purely because I want to get them painted up and detailed and out of the way before we need them, and then they're ready to go straight in. So, moving on to parts 5 and 6 then. That is the right-hand fuselage half. And there it is there. Much the same as the other side. We've got cabling lines in the bomb bay. We've got these parts here. Not sure what that is, but we've got that in there. Again, we've got this part here. This is a different part that goes in the back. Gunner's position, and I'm assuming that's where the gauges are. Ammunition can. And then these are going to be parts for the cockpit and the nav position. So that then takes us to part 6. Now the bits I haven't done are the hatch for the rear gunners, because they're going to be open. So they're still on the frame, and that's frame R. And obviously I've not put any glazing in, because we're going to put the glazing in once we've actually painted up the inside. So the next thing we need to move on to is beginning the construction of the interior. But what I would like to show you is I did take the time of taking out the center wing spar, which is a lovely stout fit, and that just slots in nicely there, and it actually gives you quite a lot of structure to the fuselage, and that's without putting anything in. When we put this together, you can just see how big that is. It is huge. Now if I zoom this right out, this is an A1 cutting mat, maybe? Can't actually see. It does tell you anyway what it is. A2 cutting mat. So if we put the aircraft like that, and I just cut the wings out because I couldn't resist, and I've taped them together just to see how things are. The fit to the fuselage is lovely, so that just pops in there, nice recessed fit. There we go. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but the wingspan here is bigger than the A2 cut and mat. So that goes up to, it's over 1/2 meter, so you're nearly 600 mil. That's 2 foot. That is absolutely huge. So this is going to be a seriously imposing model, but when you put it all together, you can see just how lovely the rivet detail is. There is a little bit of fade on the pan lines here on the top, and there's a little bit of correction needed because there's missing panel lines. But all in all, I think this is going to be really good. So that's that. So we've got the first of the fuselage together, well, ready. I'm not going to paint anything until I've got the interior to the point I can batch paint a lot of colours. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these parts taken off the framing, and then, because they're all a similar colour, we can get them together, and a little bit of photo etch to go in here. So I'll probably just construct it. So part 7 and part 8, we're really starting to build the Bombay up. So we'll probably come back for part 8, I think, because that's where the real bulk of the construction is going to be. We've got this N8 here and these 2 bulkheads, and then we start putting in these bomb racks and such. So I think that'll be a good point to come back and see how all that goes together, and then we're probably going to use a fuselage half to then make sure that we get all these bulkheads in a line whilst it cures up. And then we've also got to think about putting together the front undercarriage, bearing in mind we've got the resin upgrades for it. And then there's the front wheel well, and we also need to think about weight as well, because we will need to put some nose weight in here, and we'll need to figure out where we can put it without actually being seen. I have a feeling this area here will suffice to put weight in, but we'll need to check that as we go along. So I'm going to go away. I'm going to cut all these parts off for here, and we'll come back when we're ready to start putting this section together, because this is just simple construction, but this is the bit I'm keen to know how it all starts lining up, because there's a lot of joints here and a lot of bulkheads, and it's going to be really, really important that we get this squared away properly, otherwise it's going to be an absolute nightmare to try and get the fuselage shafts together. So, back in a moment. Right, welcome back. And I have made progress purely because I've wanted to get the bulk of the interior bulkheads, framing, etc. together. So I've actually moved quite through the instructions. I've missed out bits, so I've not done the cockpit. I've missed out interior seats, but what I've wanted to do is get to the point where we've gotten this general construction together to sit into the fuselage to make sure that these bulkheads here and here and here, as well as these lower bulkheads and the front wheel well assembly, all line up with the respective locations on the fuselage. And I've come to my first problem. Front wise, not too bad. This was a bad joint to start with. It's going to take a bit of fettling to get right. That's okay. The wing's okay. Good strong center section of the fuselage. This front piece is okay. Front wheel has to be assembled in the first instance. So that's in and it's stout. That's not too bad, but there's a bit of resistance there. So it's struggling to get together there. The Bombay, that's okay. That's going to go together with some good subtle clamping. That's okay. This is the lower turret. That's fine. Entry escape hatch is fine. And then you can see we've got a bit of a problem in there because I'm struggling to close that up. So we know there's something not quite right here. It's not aligned up for some reason. And then we go on the top. So we've got the cockpit, upper turret, mid-upper. That's coming together. That's coming together. It's all quite nice. And then, there's our first problem. Here, this final bulkhead is wrong shaped, wrong sized, oversized, and I just physically can't get this together. So let's pull this side off. There we go, and you can see the extent of all the bulkheads in the aircraft. It's quite amazing, to be honest with you. And the whole lot do come out. They're all set and cured in the right location, which is fine. But the problem we've got is this rear one here. Now there is and a recess for it to lay up in, and it is here. And I just question whether or not it's been in there properly. So we'll try and refit it again, and we'll refit it just at the back, making sure that's going exactly where it needs to go. It's very technical to see. There is a couple of guide horns there, and that is actually going into the bulkhead recess, and it is at least a mil oversized. So there's a problem we need to sort out. Everything else is just a little click and it's there. Really, really sturdy. Such the size of an aircraft. Yeah, everything else is okay. A little bit of work to be done here at the front, I think. But I actually think with a bit of glue and some subtle clamping, that'll actually dissolve any non-fit problem and make it fit. Looking at it as well, all those ejector pins that we saw in the assembly, you're not actually going to see any of them with luck. So again, that's HobbyBoss has redeemed themselves. All those places the ejector pins are, they're completely gone. So that big worry's gone. But this is going to be a problem because we're going to have to clean this bulkhead off evenly on both sides to reduce that mill. And it's pretty much just at the top, a little bit at the bottom. Yeah, a little bit at the bottom. About a half a mil at the bottom, but definitely the oversize is at the top. So that's the next job to do. Once that's done, we need to look at doing, there's a few frames to go in before we paint. There's obviously quite a lot of detail to go in. We've got this piece here, which is the floor of the front turret, and we've got to finish the cockpit and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this just by gently taking it down and reprofiling it so it closes properly. And then I'm going to tape this up and let it sit for 24 hours so it cures completely off, and then we can pull the whole interior assembly out, and then we can focus about getting the basic cockpit built up, ready for paint, and any other bits and pieces we need to have ready to get the paint applied. But all in all, it's fantastic, and the detail is really quite nice. It really is. Yeah, I like HobbyBoss kits, and this one's definitely delivering. A little bit of a shame here though. So I'll get on and do that, and we'll leave this episode as we're at. Next time you come back, that will be sorted. We'll build up the cockpit, and we can actually start thinking about getting some primer down and getting some paint on the interior. See you again soon.